and I'm going to share my Module 1 with you, Building Professional Capacity in Ourselves First, Then Others. I will be sharing with you a little bit about myself, and then we'll dig into the research that goes along with this module. Then I will talk about how the research matches up with the standards. And then lastly, I will share my references with you. So we're going to start with a little bit about myself. As you can see here, family is very important to me. I have an older sister and a younger brother, and my mom and dad live on a farm in Ness City. And then I have 3 boys and a to-be daughter-in-law. And then our very important Smokey, our family pet. So as I said, my parents live on a farm. I was born and raised in Ness City, Kansas. I attended Ness City Public Schools until I graduated. And then I went to Barton County Community College for 2 years, and then I transferred to Fort Hays, where I got my bachelor's in human ecology to where I could be a family and consumer science teacher. My first teaching job was at South Haven Schools, and then a move took my family to Waukene, Kansas, where I worked for K-State Research and Extension in education for a couple years. I also was a craft pattern production manager for a year and realized that that was not something for a family with young children. And I also was a licensed insurance agent for a couple years before I got back into teaching. And I taught family and consumer science at Ulysses and Deerfield. And then Deerfield, I had the opportunity to start my master's in school counseling. And so I ended up getting actually my school and community counseling degree through Fort Hays State. After Deerfield, I moved to the New Outlook Academy at USD 457, where I was the virtual, at the time it was called the Adult Learning Center, and I also worked for the as an online education teacher. And then I was able to move into a counselor position at Garden City, where I was at the high school for 9 years. And then my most recent move is I went to the Alternative Center, which is GC Achieve in Garden City. And so I have been there for 4 years as a school counselor. So that's a little bit about my background. My current position, I kind of wear a hat of I wear many hats. Our building is comprised of 4 different entities, and I am the K through 12 counselor for the entire building. We have a therapeutic education program on one end of the building. We have a day school, which is for students that are need more one-on-one services. Then we have our alternative high school, 9 through 12, and then we have our 7 through 12 online virtual academy and adult learning program. So this is my 13th year here in Garden City at USD 457, my 29th year total in education. As I said, I'm the building counselor. I'm also the lead teacher for the high school side, and I serve on several committees. I'm on the building leadership team. I am one of the SAT team members. I am lucky to be our Stuco sponsor. This year, we are trying to increase our culture, and so we created a social committee. We are also implementing Leader in Me, and so I'm a Lighthouse coordinator for that. And I'm also learning to be a youth mental health trainer. So we have a lot going on in our building, but I am really, really excited to start this journey as a building leader. Okay, we're going to move into the research now for this module. And as far as the characteristics that I found throughout the research, I found information about you have to be a manager, you have to be a leader, you have to be a mentor, and you also have to be an advocate. And I really do feel like as far as a manager, I do very well with that. I come up with new and innovative ideas, but I do need to seek help more from my coworkers and students instead of trying to do everything on my own. As a leader, I have helped create a culture change in our building for the last 4 years. When I started at the Alternative Center, it didn't have the best connotation as far as to the community, and so I've helped with that culture change. One thing I do need to work on is when I'm passionate about something, instead of just living with the idea that, okay, it's not going to work, I just really need to persuade people and really get my idea out there, and so that it doesn't take so long to get something in place. As far as being a mentor, I work with a lot of different students and staff, and I do develop strong working relationships. One thing that I think is a weakness that we could work on is allowing more creative planning time for our students. Since we are a very small school, that has been difficult for us. As an advocate, I advocate for students and staff on a regular basis. However, if I have to look for a weakness, I think it would be I really need to consider both sides. Sometimes it's easy to maybe just look at the student side when I'm trying to help out a student, or vice versa if it's something I'm passionate about. Honesty and integrity is very important. Trust and being empowering, communicating, and then just having a positive energy. And so I do take my counseling and teaching ethics very serious. And as I move into building leadership, I understand how important those are. Um, However, I do need to be more honest when it comes to self-care and time management, because I do have a tendency to take a lot of things on. I do a fairly good job, I feel like, of getting to know my students and staff and building relationships with them. But I need to work on giving up some of that control and letting them take the lead and do more. Communication, I do reach out to students and staff frequently and communicate. I'm one of our building social media contacts, and so I do share a lot of information out to the community. However, and it kind of all comes back to the same areas. I need to ask for assistance when needed instead of taking on everything myself, which I think is maybe something that kind of comes naturally through my counseling experience. And then last on this, the positive energy, I do develop positive relationships, and my staff and students know that I care. And again, I need to work on self-care, not only at school, but also at home. Okay, we're continuing on with more characteristics as far as developing school professional capacity. There has to be confidence. You have to be committed and persistent. You need to be able to want to learn, unlearn, and relearn as needed. And you need to be creative and innovative. And so I do feel like I'm very approachable and have an open door policy. Maybe one of the weaknesses would be I need to stay focused on the goal, because in a building like ours with so many moving entities, it is really easy to get sidetracked or get interrupted. I am very dedicated to my coworkers, students, and the school, and I adapt when needed. And sometimes that adaptation comes on a daily basis with whatever walks in the door. I do need to work on being persistent when goals don't go as planned and trying to figure out the next best way to go about them. I continually attend PDC trainings and in-services, so I do work on that learning. But I need to make sure I cannot be interrupted during these trainings. I have found, especially with COVID and when we started doing everything on through Zoom, and it seems like a lot of people have continued that I have to be in a place where I'm not going to be interrupted because it makes it really difficult. I do reach out to community and state resources, and I am very known for applying for grants in our building. However, I do need to remove my blinders and not let the size of our building interfere with goals, because our building and our students should have the same capability and the same outcome as other bigger schools. And then lastly here with our characteristics, I found throughout the research there you need to be intuitive, inspire, and take accountability. And I do use my gut instinct a lot. I don't know if that's a motherly instinct or something from counseling, but I do that when I'm solving problems, and maybe as the lead teacher, I kind of have a detective sense in me. But however, I need to work on not second guessing that, because sometimes I let that kind of come into play, and then I realize I should have just followed my gut instinct. As far as inspiring people, I like to maintain a positive attitude at school and help inspire students and coworkers. I do need to work on not letting the daily routine get in the way of inspiring others. Sometimes it's really hard in my building. I barely get away from my office or my desk. So there's times I just have to make a point to do that, and allow myself to get out of the office. As far as accountability, working in an alternative setting, I do accept a lot of accountability often. We have a lot of responsibilities. I work with students and staff, and we talk to them on a regular basis too about accepting responsibilities and accountability. And probably the weakness I need to work on is letting my students accept the consequences of their accountability. They're in our building for a reason because it's an alternative setting. And so sometimes that's a conversation that we have frequently. So let's talk about what leadership capacity means. I feel like from the research I found, leadership capacity is generated when a building leader develops the knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes to enable and sustain effective performance and use their own important self-development to ensure a safe learning environment for staff and students. Okay, we're going to move into talking about recruiting, selecting, and hiring staff when it comes to their school's professional capacity. And what I found throughout the research is there's basically what I felt like was five steps. The first one is start early and identify your potential candidates. Next, you need to interview early and collaboratively. So maybe you have a student teacher that you could interview, or maybe you have a long-term sub that's working on their degree. And so that would be a way that you could collaboratively interview. Be deliberate, share facts about your school, sell your school, let them know all the good things that are happening. They talked about using the STAR format for interviewing, and that is the situation, describe the situation or task. Action then is taking action, and then the result is what results were achieved. And then lastly is determining the best candidate for your school. So we're going to move in and talk about collaboration and the professional culture when it comes to school improvement. As far as school improvement, it's really important as a building that you have a clear vision and that you build a productive school climate. This is really important for school improvement. You need to have the perception that achievement is constant and don't put a timetable on achievement. We need to expect high-level teaching as far as engagement from students, but also instruction from our teachers. We need to clarify to teachers what is their core curriculum and what should be taught so that it is very simple and straightforward to them. Focus on one student at a time. Sometimes when we have a whole building full of students, we forget that maybe just that one student that has been successful, we forget that one success is one success, instead of 100 failures, there's one success there. So focus on one student at a time and what they can do. We need to continue to teach literacy skills, and this is, we have a new superintendent this year, and literacy skills is his main district goal. We need to expect ethical and professional behavior from both our staff and our students. And then the school mission should drive the school day. So what do we do every day that is going towards our ultimate goal? Okay, now we're going to talk about teacher retention. So as far as and you guys know that this is a very difficult time to be fully staffed. But if we can offer free resources that's available to teachers, that always helps with them. We need to recognize teachers for all the hard work and the good things that they do. Offer your mentor program. If you have a new teacher or a teacher that's struggling, match them up with somebody. Value the knowledge of veteran teachers and use their expertise. Advocate for teachers when you know there is something that they need or that something that they are not feeling comfortable with. And that goes with listening to them. What are their questions? What are their concerns? Make them feel needed as teachers and help set them up for success. And all these things that I just mentioned will help with them being successful. Develop meaningful committees. Don't meet just to be meeting, but develop a committee that's going to actually be working towards that building goal and that building vision. And then last, provide time for teacher collaboration so that they can visit with their coworkers and understand that, okay, maybe something is working better for another teacher, or, maybe they don't feel quite as stressed out because they realize that everybody's feeling the same way. Okay, now we're going to move into the student and staff well-being as far as the professional culture. It is important that we train our staff on student diversity and student needs. And I know our school district is very diverse. We have multiple languages in our district, and we have a lot of ESL migrant students. So, teachers need to be trained on that. We have a lot of staff that have their ESL endorsement also. Retain qualified and committed building leaders. It's important that you also help with your building leaders and make sure that they don't get burnt out. It's good and it's okay to celebrate student and staff accomplishments. One thing I really enjoy about our building is we have students that graduate every 9 weeks because we're an alternative setting. And so at the end of each quarter, which happened to be today, our principal announces all the students that completed their requirements, and we have an announcement over the intercom, and then we post their picture and have a special bulletin board for our graduates. So that's just something simple. But you might also have student or staff highlights. I know we recognize the student and staff of the month. Be open to change and accept criticism. As a building leader, there's going to be times that you maybe make a mistake. You have to admit to it and accept that criticism. And then most importantly, as far as student and staff well-being, build those relationships. Get to know your staff and your students. Okay, we're going to move into professional learning. And as far as professional learning, it's something that every building leader wants to make sure that their teachers get the capability to provide and to have, but also they can also attend professional learning themselves. So we need to remember to focus on the positive, ask questions if we don't understand something, build those relationships, and continue to learn. And most districts, have their built-in in-service days. We have a lot of just after school where we can get additional PDC points also. Use your critical thinking skills when you're doing professional learning. Communicate effectively. Collaborate with coworkers. Sometimes you learn the most from your coworkers. Be creative and innovative. And as a building leader, sometimes you can build the best leaders by delegating. And it's okay to let staff and coworkers take on that leadership role. Next, focus on the well-being of others, which would be students and staff. Build a positive school culture. Improve digital literacy. We have a lot of opportunities out there as far as professional development and learning. So much more just over the last 2 or 3 years. So provide that for your staff. And then reflect on the successes that happen as far as, what did you learn from it? What worked in the classroom? It's okay, if something didn't work, but maybe you can learn from that. Okay, next we're going to look at the implemented systems, and there's 3 areas of that. We have our supervision, our support, and our evaluation when it comes to building leaders and their staff. So as far as supervision, it's important to maintain strong, visible world languages, and that means setting teachers up with community resources that is important to them and their area that they teach. And also use high quality evaluation tools. Support, make sure you establish learning focused partnerships. The use of building coaches and academic coaches are great if your district has the funding for that. And sometimes the best learning comes from promoting job embedded learning, whether that's learning from coworkers, something that you did yourself, and possibly your building leader. It's okay to learn from those mistakes. When it comes to evaluation, make sure as a building leader you're managing the people, the data, and the process to foster school improvement. So as far as all of this information, how does it relate to the standard? So the correlation, Module 1 relates to PLO 7 because it provided me with the information needed to build a school's professional capacity. It also helps me understand the importance of school culture, relationships, professional development, staff supervision, and the importance of school improvement to assist with the well-being and success of students and staff. As far as the relevancy, As a school counselor and the lead teacher in our building, I work closely with my building principal and assist with multiple building leadership responsibilities already. I'm also a supervisor for one of our classrooms that's staffed with a para support. And so I have been involved with staff supervision and evaluations. After reading through this module, though, I recognize that I need to trust my professional judgment and not second guess my actions. And reflection. After reading through these articles, I understand more about school capacity and will use it as I continue working with students and staff. As I become a building leader, I will use this module to help me remember the importance of relationships, professional development, and how my decisions affect the success of everybody in the building, my students and my staff. And so next I'm going to share all of the resources, and there were quite a few articles there that we referred to. And there's the rest of those. And then lastly, I want to make sure I give credit to my SlidesGo. This was a new program that I had tried free, and part of that is making sure that I give them credit. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.